one seems to hear words of good cheer from everywhere, filling the air. Oh, how they come, praising the sun, o'er hill and dale, telling the tale. Gaily they ring while people sing songs of good cheer. Christmas is here. Dimmy, merry, merry, merry Christmas. Dimmy, merry, merry, merry Christmas. Dawn on they send, dawn without end. Dear joyful tone to every home. Hark how the bells, sweet silver bells, all seem to say, throw cares away. Christmas is here.
Welcome to the Old Hollywood Briar Christmas Special. We're going to take some time to appreciate the fineries of Christmas, the lights, the tinsel, the things that we wait for all year. As most of you celebrate Christmas with family and friends, let's also remember those who might be celebrating without tree or friend. To you I say, remember that Santa Claus was real. His legend is based on the tales of St. Nicholas, who gave gifts to the poor, once having tossed golden coins down the chimney of a starving family's house, thereby saving the younger daughters from selling themselves for food. Christmas is a time for coming together. Remember, if you're low, we have things called churches. They're full of little St. Nicholases everywhere. They would love to have you. There's tons of different kinds, and most of them aren't really even that weird. As we open the book on tonight's blend, the legendary Balkan Sobranie, we're going to take a moment before breaking the seal to discover the heroic journey of the man who created it 100 years ago. Grab your best briar or cob and a good supply of leaf, because we're going back to Tsarist Russia, the age of Rasputin, on the knife's edge of the destruction of an empire. David Redstone, creator of the Balkan Sobranie smoking mixture, was a Menshevik in Russia in the year 1904. His name Redstone was an Anglicanized version of his Jewish name. The Mensheviks were socialists, but loved the Tsar, and were less radical than the Bolsheviks. So in some sense they were opposed to Lenin, and Lenin himself viewed them as insufficiently radical. However, Redstone was a radical, and had gotten himself swept up and arrested and sent to Siberia. While in a prison hospital, he met Maria, a nurse who cared for him. The two fell in love and had several children. There are a couple books written about their grandson that I'm going to quote from here. One that I've ordered, From Siberia with Love, a story of exile, revolution, and cigarettes, and I Spy, The Secret Life of a British Agent, both written by Geoffrey Eliot. When the birth pains came, David was away. Maria took a horse-drawn cab to the hospital across the street from the Blind Baker pub. In an immigré nightmare, unable to speak more than the odd word of very odd English, she found herself totally unable to explain to the forbidding, overworked duty nurses that a bed had been booked and arrangements made with a doctor whose name she could not have pronounced even if she remembered it. In a babble of mutual incomprehension, the nurses hustled her into the public ward. For the rest of her life, she remembered the straw on the floor, the gas lights, the dirt, and the feeling of being very far away from home. When a chastened David Redstone came to see her and the baby the next day, she told him that she had had enough. She and the children, she named the new baby Sonia, were going back to Russia. If he wanted to come too, so much the better, but they were going away. And back they went, dropping almost out of sight in Chita until 1917. Though there is no evidence to this point, it is quite likely that Redstone's return to Russia was promoted less by Maria's unhappiness than by the groundswell of feeling among Russian exiles at all points of the revolutionary spectrum that now was for the time for all good men to come to the aid of the party. From Lenin and Trotsky down to the humble foot soldiers such as Redstone, they went back to pull down the last bricks of the tottering edifice. Redstone had followed his wife back to Russia, but by the year 1917, they felt they were no longer safe. Going back to the book, Kerensky drowned in his own rhetoric, but in those early months of 1917, and in Nina Redstone's 11-year-old world, we shouted revolutionary slogans, had parties, everyone congratulating each other that the revolution was here at last. At school, we sang revolutionary songs, though I didn't know what the words meant. Everything was absolutely marvelous for about 6 months. The Redstone sniffed the wind and scented real trouble ahead. It was time to go, this time forever. As the war fronts crumbled, hundreds of thousands of peasant soldiers began to melt away confused, badly led, egged on by their rabble-rousers who urged them to get back to their villages to share in the much-rumored carve-up of the great estates. The so-called Soviets or councils began to take the reins of government out of the hands of the Tsar's officials. Redstone left first, ahead of his family, warned that in the uncomradely settling of scores that was beginning to unfold, Social Democrats and Mensheviks such as he were a high-priority target for elimination by their Bolshevik opponents, far more determined and ruthless than the Tsar's police had ever been. He went to Harbin, the official Russian enclave in the north of Manchuria, a Slav oasis in a desert of Chinese, created to serve the extension of the Trans-Siberian Railway. As if trapped on a slowly sinking Titanic, the bands of Harbin played while the remnants of the Tsarist society clung desperately to the old forms of life. Operas, theaters, finishing schools, brushing ladies, pale fingers, from which, as the months went by, the rings steadily disappeared into the hands of pawnbrokers and moneylenders. Maria and the children followed a week or so later, with what little money they had tucked into baby Valentine's thick swaddling clothes, taking the risk that the surly border guards would never dream of searching an obviously ailing infant. Thousands were trying to make the same journey, deserting soldiers, families, mothers, grandmothers, businessmen, sweating officials. Cheetah Station, low-built, in a vaguely classical style, was an open anthill. Scurrying, pushing, yelling, people clutching boxes, cases, and cloth-wrapped bundles. Sometimes the trains came. If they didn't, or you could not get on, you squatted and waited, moving closer to the rails and the train's deadly wheels. The Trans-Siberian's engineers seemed not to have believed in the raised platforms beloved of the British railway designers. Desperate passengers filled compartments until they overflowed, then 10 more would push their way in. People cursed, fought, bribed, and suffocated. Maria saw a flimsy iron service ladder leading to the carriage roof. Valentine under her arm, she shooed Nina and Sonia up and passed first the baby, then their rope-wrapped cases up to Nina, whose 11-year-old arm suddenly developed strength and sinews born of sheer terror. They all scrambled to take a precarious hold on the soot-covered, slatted walkway running along the roof. Nina recalls there were hundreds of thousands of deserting soldiers. The train moved off, and we were on the roof for what seemed like forever, although it was probably only a few hours. I was so petrified I don't remember how long. We lay there with our mother, sort of spread eagle over us. Eventually, some people in the carriages made room and began to haul us through the windows. In England, Redstone helped his brother Shia build the business which they named Balkan Sobranie. He crisscrossed England by rail and bus selling the product while his brother ran the factory and worried about the money. He knew practically every high-class tobacconist that soon-to-be extinct breed, those Angel Boatbills, Wingots, and Sullivan Powells of long ago, up and down the British Isles, and he was in turn known by those courtly retailers as Uncle David. As he opened up his suitcase of samples, the heavenly aromas would fill the shop. Plump Turkish cigarettes sold by the hundred in porcelain boxes which are now collector's pieces. Oval Egyptian, long cigarettes in the style of Russian paparosi, whose cardboard mouthpieces had been originally designed to cool the smoke for the sensitive throat of the singer Chaliplain. He gave Redstone a signed photograph, wishing all success to your superb business. The Black Russian brand, whose gold leaf tips left a more elegant stain on the fingers than nicotine, and whose dark tobacco provided its own remedy against excessive consumption. More than 2 in succession had a markedly laxative effect on the system. In the box, where today some future health warning would be printed, was a heavily embossed Saurus double-headed eagle. For many years, the cigarettes were hand-rolled by the City Road factory by Jerry, apportioned and kerchief ladies from the East End, later partially replaced by an impersonal but more efficient Mullins machine. The businesses then had some success with a line of cocktail Virginia cigarettes wrapped in a variety of bright-hued papers aimed principally at ladies who wanted what they smoked to match their dresses. They also enjoyed a certain éclat among the male theatrical community. The Redstone home was cramped, comfortable, and carcinogenic. A nicotine necropolis. David breathed in a blue Turkish haze, Maria puffing at whatever came to hand. If Nina was there, she would add to the fog by chain-smoking players' weights, loading and reloading from the cheap white packets with the reflex precision of Burt Lancaster fighting off the Clantons at the OK Corral. Visitors smoked. Teenagers smoked. We were encouraged to help ourselves from a suitcase in the spare bedroom full of samples of every current and past Sobranie brand. Had the Redstones been a pet family, the cats and canaries would surely have smoked too. The curtains and the moquette upholstery were cured like best bacon, and on a clear day the nicotine pall around the house was probably a landmark for approaching Heathrow aircraft. What the hell? It was, after all, the family business. The case full of cigarettes lay next to a paper-wrapped box tied with several strands of heavy white string containing the now worthless Saurus banknotes and coins that they had brought out of Russia. Behind the smoke, Redstone, the revolutionary, mellowed into the man of family. Nina, a terror with furious energy, went off to work as a secretary, married her boss, and lived happily ever after. Toward the end of her life, she was in much demand as a Russian-speaking caller, telephoning psychiatric hospitals and prisons across the Soviet Union to let the commandants know that Amnesty International had its beady eye on them and their prisoners. Sonia was far less focused. She was trained as a beautician, learned how to make hats, and was 25 when in 1933 Elliot's lanky shadow fell across her path. The circle was closed. Balkan Sobranie met Balkan Joe. There ends the powerful story of the genesis of this legendary blend. A quintessential Christmas story of wayward travelers giving birth and beginning a family in a tumultuous time. Redstone's reward in the end was riches for his talent and the success of his family, the exact opposite of what went down in Soviet Russia, and a perfect end to a great Christmas tale. As we break into the tin here, many over the years have pointed their reviews to the varying ingredients in the blend throughout the decades, decrying their generation of the beloved Balkan Sobranie to be the best and all others to taste like chewing on a bit of road. For us, that's neither here nor there. If anyone would like to send us a vintage white tin, we will engage that topic at that time. For now, we'll focus on the elusive J.F. Germain blend, which has just recently come back in stock. Now, for those of you who remember our Penzance video, the most sought-after blend in the world, Penzance, is a pressed version of the Balkan Sobranie. It's created as a match blend to an American blend called Crumble Cake that was made by Smoker's Haven, but Crumble Cake was really a pressed version of Balkan Sobranie. So essentially, in the world of pipe tobacco legends, all roads lead back to Balkan Sobranie with its mythical concoction of Yanenji and Virginia leaves, Latakia, and most likely a bit of English Black Cavendish. The true details of the blend are a well-kept secret. Now remember, when the House of Sobranie stopped producing Balkan Sobranie, and therefore the Smoker's Haven's blends, the men at the Haven had to scramble to find a replacement blending house that the original company felt comfortable sharing the recipe with. They settled on J.F. Germain in the Isle of Jersey. Therefore, we have a true lineage of the line from the original house to J.F. Germain, world-class blenders in their own right. And we also have the men at Smoker's Haven to thank for rescuing the blend and continuing it on. Otherwise, it might have disappeared. For me, the tin note smells like Bob from Twin Peaks. Whenever someone encountered Bob or someone from the Black Lodge, they always remarked the smell of scorched engine oil. There is a rich, piquant scent of old boot, which, if you lean your nose too far into the tin, will sting the nostrils. Others will probably correctly call this a deep creosote smell. It's typical of good English blends, and this is one of the best. This is a Rogers of Sheffield pipe tamper that I use. It's a little pipe tool that I'm really fond of. I think I got this for like $8 on eBay. You can get them in incredible steals if you can find them on bid price. Drying time is with all English blending houses south of Dunhill is a requirement. We're using the DL Diffusé bronze tray featuring a Doughboy, France, World War I. It's pertinent to the era we've been discussing tonight. We'll dry this out by the fire, slowly next to our warming box of nuts from the Western Nut Company. Let me get this together here. And I left this out for maybe a good 45 minutes because this stuff's really wet. And remember, it's not just wet from moisture of water. A lot of that is oils from the tobacco, the way it's been processed. And if you don't dry those leaves out correctly, really those oils make it struggle to keep that bowl lit. And a lot of people complain about, having to go back and do relights and stuff like that. And that's really about drying time usually. This is a really high quality tobacco. So you want it to be just a little bit crispy, as you're loading it into your pipe there. And you want to kind of try to, it's a thin cut, almost like a cigarette cut. So you want to kind of try to keep it a little bit more firm in the packing because as you light it, it's going to expand and just crush right down. If you want to get a full bowl, you want to get a little more tightly packed in there. We're going to be loading up the new Sassini Pembroke that I got. Just a really beautiful piece. It's another one of the family era Sassini rusticated pipes. If you look at the dots, usually the more white and the more diamond-like the dots are, the older the pipes are. This one looks pretty old, maybe from the 40s or 50s. But I think they stopped stamping the town names in about the 70s, so this is a very old pipe. But a very beautiful piece of work. One of the reasons why I like Sassini so much is that you can collect their most rare pipes and they're, affordable. There was just a dip in the market for a while where you could just really get some good, amazing Sassinis because people just didn't really know what they were. And if you talk to people like Joe Langford, and remember Joe Langford, the blender of plum pudding, he's more famous for being a collector of pipes than he is for being a blender of tobaccos, even though he was both. He says that Sassinis are better than Dunhills, in his opinion. I'm going to grab some leather here, right by the fire. It's cold outside, boys. I mean, it's going down until like 14 degrees at night. And when you're not in the hot tub, it's just too much to handle. Let's light this thing up here. Look at that rustication. Absolutely gorgeous. We're going to be using the Sassini rusticated 4-dot. This is a family era Pembroke. They stopped stamping the names and the cities on these pipes in about the 70s. It's a very old pipe. You can see by the old style of the rustication and the fact that the dots are not really blue but more white indicates that the pipe's a lot older. Go ahead and fire this up with our 007. Remember, that's a fake ST DuPont. You can find them on eBay from China. They're pretty good fakes. As long as you don't get the ones with the lacquer on them. Those ones are crap. That Rogers and Sheffield tamper is just really amazing. I flip this up again. You can find them on eBay for anywhere ranging from 20. Like I got that one for cheap, but you can find them for usually $20. But if you can get them with horn and stuff for like 80 to 150, even seen them go as much as 300.
Le ciel bleu volait en silence.
I really love the
Cœur des gens
dark black briar, the really linear rustication of the sesame rusticated line. Upon first breath, the Balkan Sobranie is rich and zesty. The spices from the Orientals play well with the rich, bready and pressed Virginias. There is a darkness and a depth that other Oriental blends like the Balkan Sobranie, a great blend on its own right, just do not possess. It's miles above, or its Dunhill brother, Durbar, likely due to the addition of some black magic in the form of Unenji or some Cavendish of some kind. There's also the blatant butteriness of Penzance fame from first go, right off the bat. The blend is pure Balkan luxury. There really isn't anything I could really compare it to except its pressed twin Penzance, which to me feels a bit more green olive than sweet, which may be due to pressing. All of the typical leathery and woody notes are here, except there's just something extra. Something of that back end that makes the Balkan Sobranie stand out as one of the best blends ever created. It almost seems to be a bit softer, like a My Mixture 965. There is some hit of effervescence in the back of the throat when puffing this blend. Jim Inks used to note about the old one that it had a soda aftertaste from the Unenji leaf. I don't know if there's still Unenji leaf in this blend or not, but there's just really some great flavors in there that are really nice. Well, thanks for watching the Old Hollywood Briar Christmas special. I want to wish you and your family a Merry Christmas and a Happy Hanukkah. Your reward for watching all the way to the end is to be the first to know that I've been contacted by the Seattle Pipe Club, blenders of plum pudding, and there is a small batch release of plum pudding in Mississippi River, aged in whiskey casks, and I've got a pre-release version on its way for trial run. If you're subscribed to this channel, you're going to get the very first views of this sure-to-be legendary release. If you're subscribed, check and make sure you've hit the notification bell to be notified when we drop a new video. And if you liked this one, please consider a thumbs up. Merry Christmas, everyone. Oh, and one last thing. If you didn't get any Balkan Sobranie and you couldn't find anybody and you're pissed off about it, go over to smokershaven.com and order yourself a tin of our best blend. It's actually the Balkan Sobranie, just in a different tin. Take care, everyone.